another week. Today, we're going to learn that Jesus is God's Son. Can you clap that with me? Jesus is God's Son. That makes God Jesus' parent. And like you and your parents, Jesus and God are kind of alike. So let's think about that. Sometimes we're like our mother and dad. You may have the same hair color or the same eye color. You may like the same foods. But sometimes we just want to be like our mom or dad. What are some ways you want to be like your mom or dad? I know for me, my dad is really hardworking, and I want to be hardworking like my dad. And my mom is really smart, and I want to be smart like my mom. So take a minute, pause the video, and talk about how you want to be like your mom or your dad. Well, I hope you had a great conversation about that. Jesus is a lot like his mom and dad, his parent, God. Today, we're going to hear about some people who wanted to know about Jesus. And Jesus told them that he was God's Son. Can you clap that together? Jesus is God's Son. We're going to dig into the Bible and find out what happened. The Bible is God's amazing book with full of awesome stories, and they're all true. God gave us the Bible to know more about God and more about Jesus. So say a prayer with me. Fold your hands, bow your head, close your eyes. Dear Creator God, Mother and Father to us all, and to Jesus, thank you for Jesus, your Son. Amen. The first thing I want to talk about is, as we're learning today, Jesus is God's Son. In the Bible, Jesus told a bunch of people that he was God's Son. But before we hear the story, we're going to play a little game to help you think about what we're learning. Oh, look at this beautiful, soft teddy bear. Oh, isn't this a great teddy bear? What? This isn't a teddy bear? How do you know this is not a teddy bear? Is it because it's round and kind of hard and bouncy? Let's see what else I have in here. Oh, look at this lovely purple marker I have here. Let's see. I want to draw a... Hey, purple marker, you're not working. What? This isn't a purple marker? This is a doll? You don't say. Well, okay. Let's see. Let me see if my phone is... Oh, here's my phone. It's not working. This isn't a phone? What is it? You're right, it's a red pen. You really know how to tell what something is. It really reminds me of our Bible story. Jesus tells us how we know that he's God's Son. He says that when we learn about him and all we do, we can see that Jesus is God's Son. In our game, we knew that the ball, wherever it went to, wasn't a teddy bear. Oh, there it is. And we knew that the doll wasn't a purple marker. But we could tell that what the doll was by the way the doll looked, what the pen was by the way the pen looked, and what the ball was by the way the ball looked, and what it does. Today we're going to learn we can tell that Jesus is God's Son. Can you clap that with me? Jesus is God's Son by what Jesus says and does. So let's start our story today. In the Bible, it says that Jesus was at a festival called Hanukkah. It's like a party to thank God for great things God had done for God's people. Have you been to a party lately? I love parties. Do you like parties? Parties are fun. What do you do at parties? Do you eat cake and ice cream, play games, jump around and have fun? Well, Jesus was having a party with God and with God's people. His party was in a place like our church. And during the party, Jesus was just walking around and a bunch of people came to him. So here, scoot up closer. Come on, scoot up here closer to me. Scrunch in. And people wanted to know if God sent Jesus. They wanted to know if Jesus was the Messiah. That means they wanted to know if Jesus was the special one sent by God to rescue them. And Jesus said, I've already told you, and you don't believe me. Jesus told them they could tell that he was God's son by all the great things he had done. Then Jesus started talking about sheep. That seems kind of crazy, doesn't it? The people wanted to know if Jesus was God's son, and Jesus started talking about sheep. Now, every time I say sheep, I want you to make a sheep sound. What sound does a sheep make? Like that, yes. So every time I say sheep, I want you to just make that sheep sound. But Jesus had a good reason to talk about sheep. He told the story about sheep to help people understand something very important. So I've got another little video for you because I want to show you. I don't have sheep at my house, but I have some goats and in their goat pen because it will help you understand the story. So take a look at this. So remember I told you that when the people asked Jesus about being God's son, he started talking about gates and gatekeepers and sheep and shepherds. Well, I don't have any sheep, but I have my goats here, and they're in their goat pen. You see this? See my goat pen? And we put them in the goat pen so they're safe at night sometimes, especially if if we have a bad bout of coyotes. We'll put them in the pen, and they pretty much just follow me into the pen. And what Jesus said was the same thing. I'm the shepherd and the gatekeeper. And the people that listen to me are the people that love me. And he said, sheep listen to the shepherd's voice and follow the shepherd. And the shepherd's the one that opens the gate. But the people that don't listen, they're not very good friends of Jesus, and they don't know that Jesus is the Son of God. But just like I can open my gate for the goats, come on, Lily. Come on out. Come on. Come on, Lily. Come on, Mr. Bill. Come on out. See, they come out when they hear my voice because they're my goats. And I'm the gatekeeper for them. And that's what Jesus was trying to show people, that he was the Son of God, and that's why he was talking about sheep, shepherds, gates, and gatekeepers. What did you think of my goats in my goat pen? Well, that's what Jesus said. He said, my sheep listen to my voice. I know them, and they follow me. Jesus was telling a story about sheep. Did I hear you say that? To help the people know that they could know he was God's son if they listened and followed him. That's right. Jesus is God's son. Now, what I want you to do, Jesus says we can know he's God's son when we listen for his voice. When we hear God's words through the Bible, it's one way we listen to him. The people at the party wanted to know if Jesus was God's son. Clap that together. Jesus is God's son. Jesus told them that people who listen to him, the way sheep listen to a shepherd, they know he's God's son. We can listen to Jesus the way the sheep listen by obeying what Jesus said. Things like love your neighbor, That's one of Jesus' biggest things to tell us how to do. But some people didn't want to listen to Jesus. Those people looked at Jesus, they couldn't see that he was God's son. It was like when I called the ball a teddy bear. It wasn't a teddy bear, but you knew which one was which one was the ball and which one was the doll. You knew. But I was calling them the wrong thing. Like that, these people looked at Jesus and they weren't calling him God's son. So Jesus told them to look at what he had done so they could see that Jesus is God's son. But some of the people were too mad to really listen and follow Jesus. That would be like if I was mad when you told me this doll was not a purple marker. And the people didn't want to say, Jesus is God's son. They were so mad they wanted to hurt him. But don't worry, Jesus got away from those angry people. And the people that did listen to Jesus, they knew that Jesus is God's son. Let's clap it together again. Jesus is God's son. Well, remember when I showed you the video of my goats and how we closed the gate into the pen and then we opened it, and when I called them, they came out? Well, Jesus says he's the gatekeeper. It's through Jesus, just like you go through a gate to get somewhere, it's through Jesus that we see who God is and how God is. Jesus is the gate to God. So what I want you to do now is I want you to go outside and see how many gates you can find and walk through. And when you come back, I'll have a little video of me walking through my gates around my house. Okay, come on, Sadie. Come on. One more gate to go through. Then put the chain back. Walk it back. How many gates did you find? How many gates did you walk through? I showed you 3 of my gates. How many gates did you find? Just like the gate, you have to walk from your front yard to your backyard. Through Jesus is how we know that Jesus is God's son. Clap that with me. Jesus is God's son. Now, in our Bible story, Jesus said he had already shown people proof that he was God's son. He said the proof was the work he had done. We can't see Jesus today, and we can't see with our eyes that he's God's son, but he shows us proof by working in our lives today. Let's see, are there some things that you know are true because even though you can't see them, like gravity. Gravity is what makes things go to the ground when you drop them. See, when I drop my ball, that's gravity. But can you see gravity? No, you can't. What about this? I brought my pinwheel. Look at this. Can you see wind? That's what wind is. When I blow my pinwheel, you can see it moving, so you know the wind is there. You can't see gravity or air, but when you see things fall or blow in the wind, it's proof of gravity and air at work. In the same way, Jesus' work in our lives proves to us that Jesus is God's son. Jesus is God's son. One more time. Jesus is God's son. So let's thank Jesus for the ways he's worked in our lives to show us that he's God's son. So we're going to say a prayer. Dear God, thank you for showing us that Jesus is God's son through people that love us, parents that take care of us, and teachers that help us learn, and friends that make us laugh. We love you so much and are so glad that Jesus is your son. Amen. Have a great week, guys. Be sure and check out the activities that are also posted of ways that you can see that Jesus is God's son, even though we can't see him today. See you next week.